Coming up, efforts continue to help folks recover 8 months after the flood.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 11.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. It's been 8 months since deadly flash flooding in eastern Kentucky, and communities are still working to recover. Tonight, the Breathitt County Long-Term Recovery Team met as they continue their efforts to help their neighbors. As Chad Hedrick explains, the needs are still shifting.
It's been 8 months since thousands of lives were changed in southeastern Kentucky, and while floodwaters changed communities overnight, the recovery is a much longer process.
It becomes hard to be resilient at this point. When you're hit with 2 floods in 15 months, you want to say that it's hard, but in the same time you look around and see how our people have survived. They are truly survivors. Jamie Mullen-Smith is the chair of the Breathitt County Long-Term Recovery Team. It's made up of several groups, including FEMA representatives, who address the several needs flood victims still have. They started after the March 2021 flood and only finished their work 2 weeks before last July's flood. We try to focus on individuals who have not had their needs met by either insurance or FEMA or other wraparound services. We offer case management, construction help, as well as links to resources. At a meeting Tuesday evening, the group discussed the upcoming 1-year anniversary of the floods, a likely emotional time that Mullen-Smith is aware mental health will continue to be just as important as building new homes. About 12 to 18 months post-disaster, we typically see a huge rise in mental health disorders, whether that be depression, anxiety, self-harm, and even, rates of suicide can increase if we have not given them the proper wraparound services they need. And while work on hundreds of cases have been closed and families are either back into their homes or in new ones, debris removal and other cleanup is still needed. Long-term recovery is what it is. We're going to be here for the long haul. In Breathitt County, Chad Hedrick, WKYT.
Volunteer groups from around the country are still coming in to help with rebuilding and other needs. Groups are scheduled as far out as the week of the 1-year anniversary in July. And new tonight, Kentucky's federal delegation is urging President Biden to approve Governor Beshear's request for another major disaster declaration. That's in response to the February storms. Kentucky's U.S. senators and congressmen all signed a letter to the president. The disaster declaration would release federal funding to help with cleanup and repairs. Those February storms led to 2 deaths and power outages across the state.
Well, the last of our light showers pushing out as we continue to watch a frosty night, potentially, as we head through the rest of our Tuesday and into our Wednesday. Pinpoint Doppler out there right now. Yeah, a couple of showers trying to scoot through southwest or southern West Virginia, but not a whole lot of progress being made there. You see the clouds, the back edge starting to work into our western counties, and temperatures responding appropriately. Clear skies, or at least will be soon, from our Pikeville Medical Center camera. Already in the low 40s across the northern parts of the Kentucky River Valley, while other parts of the region are sitting in the middle 40s to even 50 there in Harlan. Next 12 hours, those temperatures drop into the 30s by the time we wake up in the morning. So your forecast first as we head into the day on Wednesday. If you're headed out for an early run, a little chilly early, but otherwise not too bad. And as we also check out the breakfast forecast, of course, part of a balanced breakfast, those frosted weather wheats, we're down into the mid-30s as we head into the morning hours. Clear and chilly out there. Details on when perhaps some storms could come rumbling back to the forecast in a few minutes. Steve?
All right, Evan, thank you. Authorities in Nashville, Tennessee are revealing more about the shooter who opened fire at a private Christian school. Police say the 28-year-old killed 3 children and 3 adults Monday before being killed by police. We want to warn you that some of the images in this report may be disturbing. CBS's Janet Shamlian has the latest from Nashville.
Police body cam footage from inside the Covenant School in Nashville shows officers closing in on the shooter.
Shots fired, shots fired.
Just minutes after entering the building and 14 minutes from the first 911 call.
We have no evidence that individuals were specifically targeted.
Authorities say 28-year-old Audrey Hale gained access to the school by firing through locked glass doors. The former student legally purchased 7 firearms. 3 were used in the attack.
She was under care, doctor's care, for an emotional disorder. Law enforcement knew nothing about the treatment she was receiving, but her parents felt that she should not own weapons.
Before the tragedy, Hale sent an ominous message to an old friend on social media.
When I initially received it, I responded in comfort, and then I screenshot it to my dad, and I was like, do I need to say something?
She did alert authorities, but it was too late. In the end, 3 children and 3 adults were killed before the shooter was taken out by police.
It is devastating, and it's heartbreaking. And I hope this is the last one, but I think we all know it probably won't be.
President Biden has ordered flags to be flown at half-staff on all federal buildings through Friday.
I spoke to the police chief. I spoke to the 2 officers that went in and saved the lives.
As Nashville and the nation mourn, the president is renewing calls for Congress to pass an assault weapons ban. Janet Shamlian, CBS News, Nashville.
Authorities say they've interviewed the shooter's parents and are combing through writings left behind as they try to figure out a motive. Some parents may be wondering just how to talk to your children about these mass school shootings. Dr. Catherine L. Stone is a licensed psychologist in Lexington. She says parents should not shy away from talking to their children about it, especially if they're age 8 and older.
Say, tell me what you heard today about the incident in Nashville, or phrase it of some people being hurt, and then have them tell you what they know. And then you can ask them what they feel.
Dr. Stone says this way the child is who's leading the conversation. She says when the child is done expressing their thoughts, to validate their feelings. Governor Andy Beshear ordered flags be lowered to half-staff in remembrance of the Nashville victims. All flags at state buildings will be at half-staff until sunset on Friday. The governor encourages people and businesses to join the Commonwealth in remembering the victims. Threatening messages sent to faculty members at an Eastern Kentucky college forced the school and a nearby hospital to go into lockdown earlier today. WYMT's Keaton Hall has more on that from Middlesboro.
Southeast Kentucky Community and Technical College went into lockdown Tuesday morning after a student sent threatening messages to several faculty members.
We felt like that was the necessary protocol with our crisis management plan. The staff here followed our plan to the letter, and we were very thankful because it did show that we were prepared.
The Middlesboro ARH was also under lockdown for about an hour as a precaution due to their close proximity to the school.
And throughout our investigation, we confirmed that there was no immediate threat that was made, and we was able to determine that the campus was secure and the staff was safe.
Sergeant Harvey Johnson with the Middlesboro Police Department says after recent mass shootings, including the one at a school in Nashville on Monday, there's a heightened awareness to threats.
Nowadays, any kind of threat that you get on a campus or at a school, you have to take those as real, and you have to investigate those and get to the bottom of them to see if it's a real threat or not.
Rebecca Johnson with SKCTC says if there are any students struggling, they need to reach out.
But I want to encourage students, because even if there is a crisis and it contains, it is with one of our students, they're still our student.
Officials say the student who sent the threatening emails was not on campus Tuesday and has been contacted by police. In Middlesboro, Keaton Hall, WYMT Mountain News.
Sergeant Johnson says the investigation is ongoing and it is up to the county attorney's office to decide whether or not charges will be filed against the student. Lawmakers gather tomorrow for the final 2 days of the 2023 legislative session. There are still some controversial bills that could pass. We're keeping an eye on Senate Bill 115. That's the public drag show ban. The bill has had its first committee reading. It needs a second reading before a vote can be called. We're also keeping a very close eye on Senate Bill 47. That's the medical marijuana bill. That bill has passed the Senate and has also had a first reading in a House committee. The legislative session ends Thursday and lawmakers will adjourn until 2024. Aaron Thompson, the president for the Kentucky Council on Post-Secondary Education, was in Perry County earlier today, leading conversations with community leaders about why higher education matters. He says the conversations are part of an effort to develop stronger partnerships to grow businesses and the workforce through higher education.
We have to get more students to go. We have to get more men to go. We have to get that percent up from about a 47.8% to a 60 at least percent of high school students going to college. We have to help them to succeed because they drop out faster.
Thompson spoke with leaders at the Hazard Perry County Chamber of Commerce meeting, then spent time with staff and students at Hazard Community and Technical College to learn more about what they are doing and additional tools they might need. With the weather warming up, more people are likely to get outside and hit the trails, but this can also mean more rescues for local search and rescue squads. Wolfe County and Powell County search and rescue squads both responded to calls of people falling from cliffs last weekend, with both people falling more than 80 feet.
It obviously, your mind races and jumps to conclusions when you hear an individual has fallen that far. Obviously, it's a very serious situation, and we respond with urgency to that situation.
Both of the men who fell are still alive, but the search and rescue crews are making sure to remind everyone of the importance of cliff line safety and situational awareness. Coming up on Mountain News at 11, officials in Pikeville share safety tips as more cyclists return to the roads.
Plus, chilly weather settles in tonight. Coming up, we're also tracking the latest on when some stormy weather moves in. That's ahead.
When you